In this episode...
This goes out to a man like Harry Kane, fam. Harry Kane. Said you just got Kane.
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 The Fantasy Football Show.
Hello listeners, welcome to episode 55 of Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
My name is James.
What season is it, James?
2.
Just so people know. Season 2, episode 55.
Can season 3 hurry up and get here?
Yes, I'm pretty much looking forward to the end of this season, like 5 game weeks to go or whatever it is, and it is kind of a slow and painful, drawn out process now.
As usual, if you want serious FPL advice, you've got the wrong podcast.
Yeah, true. I don't know, to be honest. I'd say a few things. I feel more prepared for this podcast than any episode this season so far.
That's even more reason. If you want serious advice, listen to another podcast.
Mainly because all that's happened different to this podcast to the others is I've organised all of the questions by category.
Oh, wow.
So I feel organised. And there's only 6 games at the weekend to review. So that's half the workload as well. We've had 24 hours to have a internal meltdown about our wildcard teams. But we're at the end of the last blank game week of the season in terms of 33. And now it's on to a single game week followed by a double game week. And it appears plenty of people in the community are on their wild cards.
Correction. It's a double game week this week.
Well, it is, but I don't know if you can count it as a double game week.
We're all getting psyched for Brighton, mate. The whole community's triple captaining Duffy and stuff, mate.
We got plenty of questions on that. To be fair, we haven't got plenty of questions on Brighton and that. We've got probably about 4 or 5. But as per usual, let's run down the games from the weekend, run down your team, my team. I think it would be a really good idea to give everybody an overview of where you are on your wild card, where I am on my wild card, because we haven't recorded anything since we hit that button on Friday night. And there's plenty of content been recorded and put out. I was checking out our friend Andy at Let's Talk FPL. He's done about 25 videos so far in his wildcard team. So he's busting out the content, working hard, yo. And any wildcard team with Kane now is like, bleh.
I very subconsciously was not thinking too hard towards what my final wildcard squad would be during the week with European fixtures, Chelsea Monday night, etc. I've literally just been building to put in the players who look like they might have been rising in price. And thank God that I wasn't locked into what I was doing, because I think, like most people, Harry Kane was a lock for me. I can't believe that this has happened to me again, where I've turned around the week before and gone, I'm going to captain him every week for the next 4 or 5 game weeks, and he's done his fucking ankle again. I can't believe it.
Well, I'm much in the same boat as you, in the sense that I've only transferred in maybe 8 out of the 11 transfers that I wanted to do for wildcard. I'd still left in a few players where I had a little bit of value just in case I changed the direction. So I haven't gone all in and suddenly changed everybody, and it has messed it up. But just for new listeners who may have only picked up the podcast this season, they wouldn't know, but regular listeners will know that last season and previous seasons you didn't pick any Spurs players for fear of jinxing them. Either they perform badly or get injured or what have you. This season you decided to move away from that. And so basically Kane's injuries are all your fault.
Thanks. I feel better now.
Just putting it out there to the public. If you're stressing about it, tweet at Planet FPL Pod and say your fault, because you started picking Spurs players and Harry Kane has been injured. And I had big plans to captain him as well. So.
I think so many were. To fall into the wild card and no Huddersfield at home this week, it was a complete no-brainer. I think you'd been hard-pressed for anyone to have him and not captain him this week.
Yeah.
The reliability of knowing he'll play, the gap between the games, so Tuesday, then Saturday, then Wednesday is decent. And now there isn't an obvious captain choice this weekend.
Definitely not. I've organised the Twitter questions into a few categories. The biggest, by far and away, with not even close, is Spurs. We've had way more questions about Spurs than anyone else. Probably because there was a bunch of questions before the game last night and a bunch of questions after the game last night, which are all around two things. Actually, three things. Pre-match last night, it was all about Eriksen and Kane. And post-match last night, it's all about Son. But let's talk about that when we get to it, shall we? And also, I think listeners will be interested in how your night was last night, because I listened on the radio. I don't have that thing, Sky Sports nonsense. BT, whatever it was.
You're all into illegal streaming,
and,
aren't you?
Well, yeah, no, I wasn't yesterday. But on the radio, it sounded pretty rowdy.
Rowdy? Fucking hell, I've not been to many games where the atmosphere's been bigger or better than that.
I was a little jealous listening on the radio in terms of the noise. There's nothing like an atmosphere like that, right? You saw the cards that everyone held up before the stadium on that single bank terrace. What is that name of that stand? East Terrace stand?
It's the Park Lane.
Park Lane stand or whatever. Looked pretty impressive, and that's coming from me, a West Ham fan, to you. I'm impressed. But the sound sounded mental. Atmosphere was good?
The atmosphere was last night was off the chart, I thought. I came out the Palace game thinking that it wasn't as lively and as vibrant as I thought it would be. I don't know if it was because it was a lot of people's first game and there was the nerves of the pressure, just get it won. But I think everybody went into the game last night and right, you're playing one of the best teams on the planet. You've got to be behind the team from minute one. And yeah, it really took off. The atmosphere in the first half was incessant. It just never stopped. And then it calmed down in the second as City got more and more into the game and had more and more of the ball. But the crowd just kept rising the players. And I think going forward it's important to say that like teams coming to Spurs under that atmosphere are going to struggle, whoever they are, in the long term. If that atmosphere can be maintained. I know that's unique last night, but it was fucking loud.
Sure. The interesting thing is that it could turn the other way as well. Like if the crowd get on the players' backs,
yeah, of course,
it can be just as negative. But yeah,
you've
interesting.
seen in certain stadiums when people have gone into new stadiums. I know Arsenal fans felt. I think they beat United in January in their first season, and a lot of Arsenal fans felt they needed that big win.
Yeah.
Before they could feel up. We've had it already.
Two already in the first two games.
Well, it's the big win beating City straight away. So suddenly that makes it feel like home, right?
Yeah. I was going to... Do you know what it reminds me of? And there's going to be plenty of female listeners that are going to disagree with me. But, you know Labour, right? You had a kid a little while ago.
I'm really concerned where this is going.
But I know plenty of people that had children. There is no good childbirth Labour story at all, right? It's all horrible, painful, like 6 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours, whatever it is. That time period, I've never had anyone come to me and give me a good story. But you go a month later and everything's forgotten. That's what I feel like it is. Like there's no good story about the travel to Wembley and the pain and everything. Now that you've had two games, all of that pain is forgotten so quickly that it's like you're home now.
Yeah. Thanks. Well said, sir.
There you go. Let's talk about game week 33.
Yay.
It was 33, wasn't it?
Yay.
How bad was the red arrow?
Shit again. About another 30k drop. Basically, because
out of the top 200k now. Or...
No, it's still just inside it.
Okay.
I mean, I don't really. It's not what the listeners want to hear, but I'm not going to hit my personal best. I don't really give a fuck now. I just want it to end respectably. Essentially, I went to weekend with no Vardy. Hazard sat on the pod last week and went Hazard standout captaincy options. All the Twitter questions came back and went, yep, out of them, go Vardy, go Vardy, go Vardy, and it got me thinking about. Biggest mistake this year for me, and it's because I'm too cautious as a player. I won't take that gamble on the hits.
Yeah, the hits is an interesting one. Yeah,
and next year I think if I've got someone and I'm like they're the best captaincy option, I'm getting them in. Easy to say now.
We spoke about it on the last show, and I was flirting with getting rid of Arnautovic for Vardy, which would have meant Felipe Anderson being downgraded as well, which would have cost me a hit, 4 points. And you said, if you're not going to captain him, then it's not worth it. And I kind of sort of agree, because you wouldn't have thought he would have got a double return. But after he did return, I was a bit nervous. But then Hazard went toe-to-toe and matched him, so nothing lost in the end. But looking back at it, it's a hit I should have taken and an armband I should have put on him maybe as well. But
who did you captain?
Hazard. So I got out of jail with that one.
You had a decent week, really, didn't you?
Yeah, 62 points.
Up?
Yeah. I've now gone up 380,000 in the last 2 weeks.
Nice.
So I'm now 660.
for 6 million.
Which is not bad. 660k on my wild card, and a handful of game weeks left to go. So I'm still hoping to break into the top 250k or something like that.
Doable on that run, mate.
Yeah, exactly. So looking good. I mean, big chunk of my points came in from Eden Hazard, 32 of them. But I had a clean sheet from Wan-Bissaka. I had the assist for Trent, and I had Salah getting me a return. Apart from that, nothing to report.
He hit 41 points. I can't remember who got them. Shit. I had quite a few players who returned. Like I had goal Maddison, assist Pereira, assist Alexander-Arnold.
That's probably it.
He had, did I say goal Salah?
No.
Yeah, that. But they were all shit, weren't they? Like 6s, 5s,
4s,
crap.
Yeah, single returns, low single returns.
So, it is what it is.
We didn't expect much from that blank game week, and it was either if you own Hazard and Vardy or you didn't. That was the differential, really. There were a couple other returns.
But in hindsight, and particularly, like I've obviously said about taking hits to get the players in when it's kind of glaringly obvious, we both sat in when Eden Hazard definitely, really.
Yeah.
And I think particularly, actually, in a blank, where you've got such a concentration of people, whether on a free hit or planned or whatever, are going to go to these people like Hazard and Vardy in that sort of situation, as people would have done with, say, Kane this weekend. Like, Kane would have been a must this weekend, I believe.
Yeah.
And looking back on that last week, those two, it's easy to say in retrospect, but they look like they were as well, very much so.
The vast majority of the top 10 in our FPL Writers League were over 60 points, and quite a few over 70 and 80.
Now, interesting you say FPL Writers League, because you know who got the best score in the game week, don't you?
I do. We'll get to that in a second.
You don't want to do it now?
No, just in a second. But the vast majority were north of 60, 70, 80 points. And the majority also were not playing a chip.
Yes.
So it's interesting to see how this blank game week actually played out really well for a lot of people.
Well, it's the same again. If you had captain and Hazard or Vardy and the other one in your team, you're on 40, was it 48
32, 32 plus 16, yeah, so 48 points.
Well, I've got 41 or something.
Yeah, true.
So,
and let's talking about the person that was top of the Planet FPL Writers League, Manchild the producer.
So, Manchild free hit.
With a bit of help.
No.
Oh, you didn't help him at all?
No.
I thought you were giving him some cheeky advice.
So he chatted at me about 5 o'clock and he went, do I still need to do it? And I said, yes, do the fucking free hit. He had about 3 or 4 players. I said, just do it. So then I saw he messaged, I can't remember if he tweeted it or he messaged me, and he still had Jimenez in the team. And I was like, get him out. Like, and he didn't take him out. He didn't give a shit. He had shit housery. He had players on his bench.
Was
he still
Trippier,
had
Pogba and Jimenez.
None of them free hit. He still had Ashley Westwood, who scored an assist.
13 points. Yeah.
What a guy! What did he get in total?
87 points.
Wow.
You've got 2 clean sheets, Wan-Bissaka and Schlupp. You've got a clean sheet for David Luiz. You've got Hazard 16 points. You've got Ashley Westwood 13 points. And you've got Captain Jamie Vardy, 32 points.
Good lad.
87 points. A game week rank of 18,323.
18,000 for the game.
Yeah. He's still not caught up with me because I smashed him in the free hit the previous week where he didn't make any changes. But to be 20 points behind and to do that in a...
It's less than that
in a
now,
blank
isn't
game
it?
week.
The difference?
I think...
It's about 10 points again, I think.
It got to 10 points. Let's have a look.
In your own time, Suj.
16 points. Halfway there.
He's coming back for you.
16 points.
Your podcast place is not necessarily still
and
safe.
He's got his wild card and he's got triple captain still to go.
But your wild card, he'll still keep Ashley Westwood.
Yeah, true.
Ashley Westwood will go to Chelsea in game week 35 and score twice.
I'm getting Ashley Westwood next season.
Yeah, all right, okay.
Let's talk about some of the games, shall we?
Let's do that.
What was an interesting start on Friday night? Southampton taking the lead. You predicted a tough game for Liverpool, and it proved to be the case. They came through in the end with the late goals, which is the sign of champions. Having said that, they won at Porto, right? They at home to Porto, so now the Champions League's going to be on one shoulder and the Premier League on the other.
The first thing I want to say is before we do the FPL bit is I think if they beat Chelsea Sunday, they'll win the league.
Oh!
And I do think they'll beat Chelsea on Sunday.
Yeah, I think they'll beat Chelsea on Sunday. I mean, Chelsea were good on Monday, better than us, but I don't think they didn't show enough that made me think that they're going to do anything for Liverpool. Can I just make a note, Matt Child, who's sitting behind the camera, timestamp that comment that James just made, that if Liverpool beat Chelsea on Sunday, they're going to win the league, because I'm sure that's going to come back to haunt someone somewhere at the end of the season.
Yeah,
or not.
You know what I'm thinking
or
of?
Not.
I'm thinking of Mars from the Three Amigos. He's just fucking cursing at me right now.
For putting the
mockers
on it.
You look at the two fixtures afterwards, Cardiff and Huddersfield, right? You can't see them slipping up.
No.
And then they're into the final two, Newcastle away, Wolves at home.
Yeah.
Now, neither's brilliant fixtures.
Yeah, but that point, if you said to them, you've got 2 games to win, you're going to go for it, right?
Yeah.
You're going to smash it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very interesting. I mean, Salah scored. Do you think he is a consideration back on form?
Do you know what? When he scored, I forgot I still had him. I was already tinkering with my wild card.
Yeah.
He scored, and it never even dawned on me. I was like, still own that prick. Yeah. It's a brilliant finish.
I saw a replay of his tackle yesterday.
That's a red card.
That's a little nasty. But I don't like the phrase, he's not that type of player, but I mean, he doesn't make tackles like that regularly. But
No.
Bad tackle.
I don't think he meant it, but it's over the top of the ball. It's
exactly.
Red card. And I do need to do a bit of VAR at some point on this podcast, mate, because it was in use, right?
Yeah, yesterday.
Why is he not getting sent off?
Penalty, all that stuff.
I'll come back to that. Liverpool, firstly, before we do Southampton, the big debate at the moment is obviously, particularly, and we're going to kind of work on the assumption here that many people are on their wild card, so we kind of got to judge it that way because we're both on it. The big conversation is how many do you take through with you?
Yeah.
So if I was guns ahead right now, I would just be carrying Robertson. Mane is so 50-50 for me. Salah, not in my faults. It's too much money for someone who's not going to have a double and is not in good enough form. You know, he didn't score last night to change my opinion. You do feel like you still want one attacking player. I'm just not sure if I want Mane for Chelsea at home and then the Cardiff away in the single. I'm not convinced. I think for me right now, Mane's probably likely my triple captain, game week 36 at home to Huddersfield. That may depend quite a lot in terms of...
So you'll be subbing him in 35 or 36?
Yeah.
If you don't own him through?
Well, if I'm going to triple captain in 36, if that's what I want to do, I'll take the fucking hit, wouldn't I? And just get him.
Yeah.
It's well worth
it. Yeah.
A lot of that might depend in terms of assuming Liverpool have a Champions League semi-final, when that fixture is. Because if they have the gap from Cardiff Sunday to Huddersfield Friday to then Champions League game on a Wednesday, that feels very safe in terms of a gap. There's no reason for Liverpool to be resting players in the league, but they could obviously conceivably look at that fixture in 36 and think, we'll rest players. And so it's the same case for Spurs this weekend.
So you're carrying one through your wild card at the moment.
I don't know if I'm going to go with Mane on the wild card or look at it afterwards. It might be I decide to go Firmino. It might be that I have to look at Salah again. And that's probably more why I'm thinking, no, I'll wait back on that. I've got so much value in Robertson at 6, and I feel like I do want to carry one through. Yeah.
Whilst we're talking about them, look, we've got questions about them. This is going to be the tricky thing, talking about games and then our wildcard plans and the questions the listeners sent in about Liverpool all at the same time. So let's just go team by team, shall we?
Fuck the listeners.
No, the listeners are important, mate. It's what puts food on the table somehow, some way. JB was the one that asked, how many Liverpool players will you have in your wildcard 34 team? So you're saying 1 and maybe 2. I was starting out with 2, which was one of Robertson or Trent, who I have both right now. And then I got rid of Salah for Mane already. I wasn't keeping Salah, no way. And I hadn't lost any value in Salah. However, I was debating whether to keep Robertson or Trent. The problem is I've got value in Robertson, but Trent's cheaper and is just as likely to return, but then he may get rotated more. So I'm really torn about which one of those two is going to be left out when I finally finish with my wild card. Whoever leaves, they're going to be leaving for Laporte, who's going to be coming in instead. Mane was my attacking Liverpool option. But now that Kane has gone, it's opened up this hole of who do you put in as your third striker, because I don't think there's any particularly standout options that are just a really straightforward switch. You could go to Aguero, but Aguero's risk of rotation. We saw at the weekend what happens with Arsenal in terms of Lacazette and Aubameyang. They could there's 4 away games out of 6. Just really, really turns me off. Really turns me off. So Firmino's popped up as actually quite a reasonable option. If I downgrade Harry Kane to Firmino, then Mane's out, and it makes me potentially think about Raheem Sterling in Mane's slot. So probably two. Two's the answer for me, and it's probably Robertson and Firmino at the moment.
I think the reason why Robertson is important to say is not just the value. He's the only remaining player that I've got from game week 1. And I did say all season I'll carry him right to the end. If you want to timestamp things, the amount of times I said when Alonso and Mendy were going mental, he'll be the top scoring defender this season.
Still
He's
sitting
been
high,
brilliant.
181
He'll
points.
be my FPL player of the season if there is such a thing.
Yeah.
So I bought him at 6 at the start. Consistent returns. Also, obviously, didn't play last night through suspension. So that's important as well.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to carry a single game week player who's at risk of not playing.
Rotation,
in a double. That's a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
So Alexander-Arnold would be more likely to get a rest at some stage in, I think, the Cardiff or Huddersfield games if that comes round. And that's what he wants to do, particularly if Joe Gomez is approaching fitness. And obviously Lovren played last night. So Robertson, for me, is staying.
Yep. Okay. Dave at Dave Western asks, is Salah back in your thoughts after his goal and potential rise in form, or is the schedule hinting at rotation risk? The Champions League game is the Champions League game a key match for such a decision, and he's on his wild card as well. Salah's just too much money now, isn't he? Really?
Yeah, in my opinion, yes.
I doubt very many people are going to be keeping him.
The Huddersfield game will grip people with fear.
Oh,
in
yeah,
36
We'll
because you
hide
know
him behind the sofa and all that.
Yeah.
But
I don't think it'll be worth it.
No,
personally,
no.
So no. Other than the goal, the best thing he did in the game was give Robertson and Henderson a slip when he celebrated. The prick even took his shirt off and got booked. And he's like, "I've waited all this time." Takes it
-1 for the yellow.
That's a point off. You fucking
Cheers,
bastard.
mate. Let's move on. Bournemouth 1. Burnley
I'm not
3.
going to let you move on, mate, because Southampton are such a big thing at the moment.
Yeah, true. And we've got Southampton questions, so we can come back to them. All right. How many Southampton players in your current wildcard team?
As it would stand now, I would be 2.
Which are?
Valerie.
Everyone has him.
Yeah. Why don't you come on over?
How much are you getting for?
4.1.
Yeah,
so he's in
4.1.
now. So he hasn't risen yet, but he will do before the weekend. And at the moment, Redmond.
Okay.
But I know you'll have JWP.
I don't at the moment.
Oh, really?
I'm going to bring him in. So I've got Camarasa this week.
You've told everyone you've been waiting for it.
Yeah, but it's a single game week. So I've got Camarasa for this double game week as my budget enabler in midfield, and I'll be moving him on for James Ward-Prowse, 34 to 35, probably.
I think that's a real tough call in that midfield area for Southampton because there's 3 choices. And the other one we haven't mentioned is Højbjerg.
Yeah.
Who I think is still 4.4. Was a bit of a darling for us early in the season. I don't think we ever got him in, but every week we went, he's the budget one. And his numbers are decent. So he breaks and gets into the box, particularly playing with Romeo. He can get in and do that. I think they've altered formations slightly recently where obviously they played with a 4 at Brighton and then a 5 against Liverpool at the back. And Ward-Prowse has been in a little bit more of a wider position. We said last week, because of his delivery, etc., it doesn't really matter too much.
Yeah.
Because it's all going to be on the set pieces with him anyway. But I think it's a little detrimental to him. And I just feel they're playing really well at the moment. I'm not saying Liverpool didn't deserve to win the game by the end, but they give them a proper game, particularly for an hour.
Yeah.
I didn't think Liverpool were going to score watching the game at 1-1. And Redmond, I say it so often, he's got all the ability. He could be a really, really good player. He's 5.3. If Danny Ings doesn't get fit, he might end up the season, this final run in playing through the middle. Although I like him running with the ball from deeper positions as he did for the goal at Brighton. At the moment, I'd go Redmond. There's a chance I won't go for any of them.
I've only got Valerie at the moment, but I'm delaying my move on the Saints player for next week. JB has tweeted in and also pointed out Højbjerg's recent performances and underlying stats are better than JWP and Redmond. So are they worth the extra money? I don't know these underlying stats. If you listen to our show, you'll know that we look at goals scored and assists, and that's about it.
No, but it's important because if that's one where if the budget's going to be a problem, go Højbjerg.
Yeah.
He's going to sit on your bench every week and you'll play him. He'll be one of your bench boosters in the double.
Yeah.
and it can work.
And if I move from Camarasa to Højbjerg, I'm actually making a bit of money rather than losing money. Depends on, obviously, price rises and changes, but there you go. Cool. Now can we move on?
Yeah, there are alternatives, though. I think Valerie's the right choice defensively. You can look at Bednarek, Yoshida, Gunn in goal. You can look at them, but I think Valerie's the best choice.
So, Bournemouth 1, Burnley 3. When Bournemouth went 1 up, I tripled up Brooks, Wilson, King. I'm thinking, here we go. So 1 up, open the app up. Oh, it's an own goal. Great. And then nothing after that. And credit to Burnley for coming back and giving them an arse slapping. But I've subbed all 3 of those Bournemouth fucking guys out now, and they're not coming back.
Yeah, they're not going to be looked at for the run in either. Although the fixtures are still okay. It's a nice fixture at home to Fulham still to come. But it was kind of a get-on sort of around about game week 30. And I said on last week's pod, I thought after the disappointing performance at Leicester, they would really respond and give Burnley a proper game. Got the early goal. You expect them to go on then. And then having fallen behind at 2-1, you thought second half, with the attacking players have got, they'll have a real go. And never really grasped the game, what I saw of it. And Burnley ran out quite comfortable winners in the end.
Do you think they're on the beach? Everyone likes it. I think that's the talk of the town. Who's on the beach?
It's the in term. Unfortunately, yeah, they're
Everyone's
in it.
using the parasol
emoji. They might look at it that they still need a couple of points to be safe, but they've got Fulham at home still, so there's your points.
Yeah, there you go.
So, yeah, you can't go near Bournemouth. And Burnley, the only one I could think, if you have a feeling for it, is maybe McNeil, particularly if you're not bench boosting in 35. Might do a job for you to sit in a sort of fifth midfielder. Because he's done well. If he'd have scored at the weekend, he'd have been the first player in years, the first teenager in years to score in 3 consecutive games, I think. He's one to keep an eye on, I think, early for next season. Yeah.
Huddersfield 1, Leicester 4. Huddersfield now just getting a kick in on their way down, really. But Leicester, under Brendan Rodgers, back to their title-winning form.
Tell me about that.
But Vardy, come on.
There was plenty more clean sheets in that title-winning team. They didn't score 4 away from home too often either.
No. Jamie Vardy is really putting his hand up now, isn't he?
There were elements of the game which, Leicester well deserved to win. Huddersfield had a little spell at 2-1. The penalty wasn't great from Vardy. It could have been saved. I was a Maddison owner. He's put Vardy in. Vardy walks around the goalkeeper and he gets brought down. So Maddison was very unlucky not to get the second assist. A third free kick for Maddison this season.
That's not hardly prolific though, really.
No, that's decent. Honestly, if you score 3 goals from direct free kicks in a season, I think that's the highest.
For his minutes, it's not bad, I suppose. But I reckon there's got to be someone who scored more. No, Digne must have scored more.
I reckon that's the most. It's 3 from direct free kicks.
Doesn't feel like a lot to me, to be honest. But
Brendan Rodgers and Leicester at the moment, Rodgers gets a lot of stick, but that seems like a good fit at the moment. I think after Puel, they needed someone in there who's a bit more. He believes in himself, Rodgers, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He strikes me as the sort of guy who stands in front of the mirror for a long time in the morning. And actually, I think for Leicester, I'm not saying Leicester are like that, but I think it's a good fit at the moment.
Okay.
And they're playing with a bit of swaz again with people like Gray and Barnes and Tielemans sixth attacking return in a row. It's
back to this single game week, double game week. But if they had a double game week, you'd be all over them.
I think there are quite a few people who have carried through, sort of built to 33 and got, say, Vardy,
and
captain him this week.
Yeah, we've had a few questions on Twitter
about that. And important to say, I didn't even realise myself till yesterday. It's a fucking Friday deadline.
Yeah.
Leicester against Newcastle Friday night. So I don't know if it might be first game fears, but there were so many question marks about who to captain this weekend. Vardy's viable.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And he's been cleared. He had a little knock towards the end of the game, but Rodgers has said today, no concerns, he'll be fit for Friday. So you're at ease there as well. I think, there are quite a few who will go Jamie Vardy captain this week and then fuck him off, because the last 3 are tougher. Finish with Arsenal, Chelsea, City in some sort of order, I think.
Okay, Newcastle Palace, 1-0. And victory for you in a much-needed victory in last man standing with Milivojevic.
Are you taking a piss?
No, I'm just saying he scored and you won.
That was the fucking week before. I went for Damari Gray.
Oh, you did as well.
And you beat me with Callum Hudson-Odoi's 3-pointer.
I was when I was watching the Chelsea game, I was thinking, Hudson-Odoi don't do anything, even though I wanted to win last man standing. I've got my weeks mixed up. Yes! That's an overall season victory then.
It's not, because I can win every remaining week and it'd be a draw.
Okay,
but I'm not going to.
No, it's hard.
So well done. Game. A hollow victory for Suj. We won't be doing last man standing next season.
As hollow as
bullshit, mate.
Your chance of winning the Champions League. Let's move on. So Palace, Milivojevic. Now, I mean,
was it 11 penalties?
This guy's
it's
a
exactly
machine.
The same. It's just exactly the same as what happened last year. Every week we've watched it go by.
Can't carry on. Can't carry on. Can't carry on. And he still does.
6 more penalties than any other player.
But clean sheet for Palace as well.
So I think he's over. He's got to be close to 20 penalties in the 2 seasons now.
Yeah.
It's absurd. He's
and
like
he
the
takes
7th,
them well as well.
He's like the 7th highest scoring midfielder now or something.
Wow.
It's unbelievable.
And it will carry on. I mean, he's a real consideration for next season. But he's one of those that you've got to just buy and hold because you don't know when the penalties are coming. But it depends what Palace do in and around him and whether or not Zaha stays next season. You'd assume that he will. I don't think there's going to be too
Zaha?
many. Yeah, you'd assume that he will.
I think there's a lot will look this summer. A lot. It will take a lot of money. I've heard rumours United want to go back for him this morning. Don't know how true that is.
They love a bit of double dipping back.
Chelsea looks like they're going to be looking for a replacement for, if they can spend the money, a replacement for Hazard. You could see that, couldn't you?
Yeah, potentially. You'll need a replacement for Christian Eriksen.
I tell you, would really suit if they come up with the money. I mean, definitely suit us, but actually Arsenal as well.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Definitely work there.
Anyone from Newcastle or Palace taking your eye?
No, not really, because kind of out of it
Doubles,
now,
isn't
and
it, really?
and the fixtures are fairly bog standard. Newcastle were unlucky in the game. Gator 10-point return, and I screamed at everybody, "Don't go near him for the blokes. He's a threat." It's fucking always the way.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the Sunday game. Everton 1, Brittle Arsenal 0.
What was that all about?
I mean,
did you watch the game?
I watched the second half, and you did call it. You said it was going to be tough. I was listening to some of the build-up, and there was, Arsenal haven't won a game away from home since November. And I was like, that's quietly crept up on me, that stat. Like last season, obviously from January, they were losing everything.
Other than Huddersfield. Are we just discounting that?
I'm sure.
Count.
Okay, I just heard.
Well,
sorry.
it's just Huddersfield, I think.
Is it only Huddersfield
yeah.
since November? Okay,
so.
Fair play. My stats wrong. But I remember hearing that was it since. And that's as bad as last season.
Of course
again.
In the same period, they've won every home game.
Yeah. And they did last season as well. They won 16 out of 18 or 15 out of 18 or whatever it was. So, I mean, it's Aubameyang is the second highest scoring striker in the game right now. Lacazette is 5th or something like that. And yet, I'm still like, nah, can't trust you. Ozil was getting slammed as well.
The biggest decision, we'll come back to Arsenal in a little more detail. The biggest decision for me at the moment, I've got Lacazette sitting in the team on the wild card. It's what happens tomorrow night in terms of team selection against Napoli is going to be very important to give us a little bit of clue. Doesn't help their play.
Plus the result.
Well, yeah, it would help obviously if Napoli went there and won 3-4-0 and fucking blew it, and you knew they were out. Would be helpful for wild
but then if he went to,
then you'd suck up Monday night against Watford and know you're all right afterwards. I think.
Yeah, but then if they were 3-0 down, and then the week after he puts out a weakened side, he'll get so much grief because it'll be as if he's thrown the towel in. So he'll have to play a strong team regardless. I think you've got to wait till after next week because the fans complain about this weakened side stuff, right? Why is Ramsey left on the bench or what have you? Or why is Torreira not playing, or why is Xhaka not playing, or what have you? They want to see the best side out. Why is Aubameyang on the bench? And if they lose, they're going to be even more pressure because they lost at Rennes, right, and came back and got over the line. So you can't ever discount them.
But first leg's at home tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah, that is a difference. So you'd hope that they'd win at home, like losing, but they won't lose 3-0 at home to Napoli.
I hope so. That'd be nice.
Yeah, but I'm sure they won't. So yeah, interesting. But I haven't got any good.
I started the week thinking very much that I would definitely go for one of Leno or Kolasinac.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm going for neither.
Yeah, I've got neither in mind.
Do you know, since the Premier League started, I think it's only 13 teams in the 26 odd years, or however long it's been, have gone through a whole season not kept an away clean sheet. And Arsenal could add to that this year. It's astonishing.
13 teams, so that's you 20 teams by 24.
And you're looking at 4 out of 6 away games to come.
Yeah.
Now, I'd have probably looked at it and gone, right, well, there's a home fixture and a double, so there's probably a good return there for a Kolasinac or something. But then they could get rotated as well, right? So
I trust Arsenal less than I trust West Ham, and that says something.
And then you look at people like Ozil from one week to the next is world class to nothing. Ramsey is injury problems all the time, so apparently why he didn't start again at the weekend.
Yep. But it was a slight knock.
And Socrates, importantly, not that he probably would have been an FPL consideration, but he's banned for the next 2 league games. And he's been their best defender this season, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so then suddenly, what you do is Kolasinac come off at half-time at the weekend, and I'm sure everybody did what I did. Ooh, what price is Monreal? And you look at 5.4 and you go, oh, fuck that.
Forget it.
Not really, no.
Nah.
So at the moment, going without, I think my big call on closing on the wild card will be, do I go Lacazette? And if not, Jimenez might be my most expensive striker.
This is something that we'll talk about when we get to the questions. I'm in the same boat, but it's not Lacazette for me. It's a choice of Vardy or Firmino. If not, then Jimenez will be mine because Rashford. You've got rid of Rashford.
Rashford's gone, definitely.
Yeah, so Rashford is currently my most. But we were in that bracket of there's only a couple of pips between them. So Everton. 4 clean sheets in 5, or is it 5 in 6 now? Whatever.
I think 5 in 6.
Yeah.
And consecutive home games against Liverpool, Chelsea, and Arsenal. Mad.
When I think if Gomez and Idrissa Gueye play like that, they've got a chance in most games. They've got that stability.
But when they were having that really bad run, and I know that Spirit Blues, our correspondent, has said for the majority of the season, midfield's a big problem. And I agree, those two are good. When they were playing well leading up to that Liverpool game in December, midfield looked really solid. But during the bad period, the two of them played most of the games. Something's changed. I think Sigurdsson looks a bit more threatening. I think the big change that's really helped them is Calvert-Lewin up front. Because he gives them a target. And he's a willing runner and he won't stop. And I think I'd said last week I'd really look at him next season strongly depending on price, even if he was coming at sort of 6 million or so. I saw Tom Campbell tweeted that the other day thinking similar as well. So Calvert-Lewin really scouting for next season, but in spite of form, I wouldn't be looking at Everton.
No, I'm not looking at them at the moment either. They're players that you would want maybe a little too expensive in Bernard or Sigurdsson, considering the doubles and what we've got coming up. I went to the rugby on Saturday. You would have seen my tweet. You said that you were looking at watching Norwich while I was watching rugby. But one of my mates who I was out there with is Toffee, and he's been watching Everton for years, and he was rating Calvert-Lewin as well. But he actually is a big Tosson fan. He likes Tosson.
Oh, he's a tosser.
Yeah, but just because Tosson's a good finisher, he said Tosson. He seemed to think so, but he was liking Calvert-Lewin as well. So
it'll be interesting.
Digne is still an option, right? At 4.9.
What they'll do well to do this year, Everton. We've said this a few times over the past few months. The amount of money they've spent on shit. Like, give this fella a chance. Don't go and spend 40 million on another forward who you don't know. I'd like to see Everton give that fella a chance next season, and I think you'd then be in a position where he'd get an England World Cup squad as a backup.
Yeah,
honestly.
Okay, interesting.
If he's English, no, he's English.
Is that it, or is there any other games?
You're getting just ahead of Josh King, I should imagine.
Just about. Or Ashley Barnes.
We need to cover the cup semis briefly.
We've missed the Monday game, you dickhead. I was trying to avoid it.
Oh, yeah. You had me there, yeah.
But I couldn't let you. I couldn't let it go slide. Otherwise, we'd have got so much grief on Twitter.
I assumed the wife let you watch the game, did she?
So, do you remember where you and me went for a curry to watch the game?
Oh, you watched it in there?
I said to her, my kids wanted to have a sleepover at my parents' house. So, it's Easter holidays, right? It's from school. So, yeah, we were both twiddling our thumb. Well, I'd already said to her, I want to go and watch the game. And this is true. I had no one to go with because no one wanted to come with me. She's like, we'll go together. So we went and watched it together at that place that I took you to that gave you the shits or whatever happened the last time I went there. And we sat there and watched the game. It was empty. because nowhere around where we are in North London are there any any Chelsea or West Ham fans. So she watched it with me.
Nice.
There you go.
She still love you.
There was food on the table and she had a gin and tonic. So
I have to say, Eden Hazard was incredible.
He was in the mood, wasn't he?
He was incredible,
it's just that
mate.
he was in the mood. I wasn't overly impressed by Chelsea overall. I think defensively, Rudiger is a real good player. And the first 20 minutes up until he scored, they were all right. They were better. They had more possession, but they weren't really getting in behind or creating that many chances, I thought. But they were the better team. I'm not going to sit here and try and say that we were as good as them. They were better. But after Hazard scored, the rest of that first half, I was a bit shit. They're going to score a couple more. Second half was more even. I think we gave them a better game. I think our formation change and Snodgrass coming on did help.
He came on and worked hard, didn't he?
Exactly. And then it kind of gave everyone else a little bit of a lift. But in the second half, they were still the better side overall. They still were better in possession. And Hazard's Hazard, man. We got our regular Twitter question guy, Ron Weasley, started his question talking about how Hazard's gone from FPL legend to FPL troll to FPL legend to FPL troll back to FPL legend. I mean, he's still in my team. I was going to sub him out in my wildcard for KDB, but I didn't, and I haven't. And
Are you thinking of keeping? Are you that convinced on it? See, I would look at it.
Well, you know what? He wants to go to Madrid, and he's going to have to.
I'll just look at it with Hazard and go, right, 5 games to go for Chelsea and 3 away games that are Liverpool, Man United, and the finish at Leicester.
Yeah, but he'll want to go out on a high if he can do damage against any of those teams.
Burnley at home in 35 kind of makes you feel for those bench boosting. Yeah, okay, could keep him in and around that because of what he could do in the one fixture. It's a perfect case of single game week playing a double game week's okay, I think. And I think it's Watford at home in 37. There's just not enough there for me to consider holding on to him. But
I haven't got a lot of value in him, 0.1.
Anybody who watched that game Monday night would have thought, I'd want him in my team.
Sure.
But
second game in a row, yeah?
I very much watched the game thinking this is the last time I'll have FPL interest in Chelsea this season.
Tell me, did you have any Chelsea players on Monday night?
Yeah, I had Chunky Chips up front, of course.
Yeah, I that question was asked specifically for you.
Even when he hit the post, I missed it. I went into the kitchen to get a drink and come back and hit the post.
But he wasn't up to much at all. I didn't think he was very good at all.
He's fat. Forget about it. And Sideshow Bob, who I've now sold.
Yeah.
I can't see enough.
I was impressed with Hudson-Odoi. I thought he put in a shift, working hard. His end product wasn't quite there, but for his age and experience, I thought he did particularly well, and he could have scored as well. He had a couple of chances.
Hudson-Odoi is going to be a top player. I think we can agree on that. And his price at 4.2 still at time of recording makes you think, oh fucking hell, if he's going to play regularly for Chelsea, 4.2.
It's a big if.
Yeah, there's that. But I don't see the attacking returns yet in him either to make him an FPL asset. Because invariably at that price, you're going to leave him on the bench, aren't you?
Yeah.
Through fear, I think.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be a consideration for me. Key to them Sunday, I'll say this now, you can quote me, time this. David Luiz's performance will be absolutely crucial for Chelsea on Sunday.
He was all right as well.
Yeah. He turns up in games like this and he's either 9 out of 10 or he's 4 out of 10. And that'll have a big factor on because Chelsea can't go there and carry anybody at the weekend under that atmosphere.
Yeah, true. Hazard's first goal, well, it was just class, right?
Worldy.
I don't think it was worldy, but he did just take around 3 players and put it in the bottom corner. But
worldy. Worldy.
Yeah,
there's only one other footballer.
Very few players.
There's only one other footballer I know who can score that goal.
Messi.
That's Sissoko. West Ham. Next 2 away games, Man United, Spurs. Feeling confident about the end of your season, I'll take it.
I have no West Ham players in my FPL squad. And, I mean, we turned up for bits of the second half. The problem with West Ham is that, you don't know what you're going to get one week in, week out. But I'm not overly confident.
We'll link this quickly, because although you've got the questions there, I know our West Ham correspondent, FPL Addict, sent a question in asking if we should consider Manchester United players for captaincy this weekend as they are playing West Ham.
Yeah, there's a couple of people that said that anyone playing West Ham, anyone playing Huddersfield.
We should talk United briefly. Rashford's gone.
Just on
gone for me.
West Ham, one thing. Balbuena back. I thought he was all right.
Why did he play Ogbonna instead of Diop?
I don't know. Maybe rotation. Just rotation more than anything else. Diop's by far the better.
Rotation from what?
I have no idea, mate. But it was nice to see
him. Played
him
the game for about 9 fucking days. What are you talking about?
Nice to have him back. Trust me. So we'll see.
Rashford's gone for me, and you're keen to keep, aren't you?
Well, I've got value in him at the moment, so
yeah, I've scrapped it. I just think
he's got a yellow flag at the moment.
To actually answer the question, no, I don't think he or Pogba are captaincy material. Hopefully, before we finish recording, we'll get the team for the game against Barcelona tonight.
Yeah,
I don't think they're
What's
captaincy
the kickoff?
options. 8? Yeah, I don't think they're captaincy options for this weekend. So they play Barcelona today, and they play Barcelona again Tuesday. Right, that's tough mentally, physically. So I think like even Pogba could be at risk this weekend. And Pogba's a big decision for me, still sitting in the squad at the moment. But if I had to finalise my team right now, he wouldn't be in it.
And would that leave you a 0 Manchester United coverage?
It would leave me 0 United, 0 Chelsea, 0 Arsenal.
That is very interesting. You're going against all of your top 4 rivals.
I'd look at United, great fixture this weekend.
Yeah.
And then Everton away, great form. The big Manchester derby. And then straight after that, they're going to Chelsea at home as well. That's in the space for a week. Do I really want enough of Rashford, Pogba? So obviously they finished with Huddersfield away, Cardiff at home, which is properly tempting. But I think you just go back in if you wanted to.
Yeah, if you needed to.
If they're out of the Champions League and those 2 fixtures appeal.
That's quite a big if. I think they'll be out. Messi and co.
You would think, but then none of us gave them a prayer against PSG, did we? So
no, that's true. That is true. So just for the listeners, where are you on your wild card? We'll run through yours and mine, and then we can get into some twit questions.
Cup semis.
Semis.
Because we've got to talk about Brighton, Watford and Wolves, mate.
So, I mean, Brighton are out, so it is what it is. As in...
We're obviously out of the Cup.
The question is now...
Nobody's wildcarding this week without Brighton players, mate.
So the questions on Brighton are all around how many...
Yeah.
And whether or not, because they're out, there'll be more or less, or will there be any rotation? And the same goes for Wolves and Watford as well. There's people asking now, do you think that Wolves, now that they're not in anything, they still have the double game week, so there's like 3 games in the space of a week or 8 days. Will they rotate as much, or are they now, fuck it, let's just go for it? Because even if they get to 7th, there's still a good chance that they could get into Europe.
I think...
I feel for Wolves. Just talking on the semis, I was watching, thinking, you know what? I don't mind Wolves.
I felt for Bradley,
and I thought, you know what? This is nice to see Wolves in the final. I felt for them, and then.
Sorry, Bradley.
Fucking Deeney.
I know he'll be listening.
Troy Deeney.
I know he went, and that would be sick.
Like, I don't mind Watford either. Small club doing well, and. I don't mind Watford, but I don't like Troy Deeney, and I would have liked to see Wolves win that one. I think.
I didn't give a toss either way, to be honest. It was a cracking game. As soon as Watford, to cover that game first, Watford tactically got it wrong, kind of starting with a diamond, really nullified Decore, I think, playing sort of left of Capoue, who's obviously the real sitter in that team. It didn't feel quite right. And I think Deulofeu ended up coming on because they had to chase the game and go for it.
Yeah.
His first goal is sensational,
nice.
Mate. And from there, I think the penalty was iffy, by the way. But once they equalised, you felt with Wolves having taken off sort of Hotter and Neves and that, you felt Watford were going to win it in extra time, and as they did.
Brighton?
I think you've got to have at least 2 if you're wildcarding. And I think we can narrow it down to 5 players to consider, in my opinion. I think if you're looking elsewhere, you're looking too far. So the other one's Duffy. Nearly everybody's going to go for him, I think. I think he might even be Brighton's second highest scorer. He's got 5 goals.
I'm on Dunk at the moment actually because
you
I
know,
don't want to spend the money for Duffy.
I saw the stat earlier, but I think it's the same amount of goals as Dele Alli this season, for example. So I mean, you got to look at him. I mean, it's 5 goals, 3 assists, maybe for Duffy.
4.7 he is. And to be honest, I'm being tight on 4.7 over 4.4, which is a stupid amount of money to be tight over.
Lewis Dunk can be considered. At the moment, I've gone both.
Okay.
And
Matt Ryan.
We've won. No.
Okay.
I think the 3 is overkill.
Okay, so I've got Matt Ryan and Dunk at the moment.
They've got Bournemouth at home and Cardiff at home. Like, in terms of home fixtures for Brighton, I can completely see why you want to go that way. I think there are only 2 attacking players you consider. One,
Glendo.
I'm going to captain him.
This week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fuck it. He hasn't scored, I think, a home goal since game week 15.
Okay.
And they got 2 home games this week, and I don't really care anymore. But I know what he could do.
Yeah.
He's on the pens and that. He probably only played a 1 game. But I'm so unsure on captaincy this week. I think that's what I'm going to do. And I know there's plenty of listeners who are going to do Duffy. And there will be some that do Ryan as well. I think the only other attacking player to consider, and this was based on the eye test because I thought he was outstanding against City, was Knockout, who worked his nuts off. Obviously scored at Palace a few weeks ago as well. He's been in and around the numbers, and I think his performances with March doubtful, Gross looking like he's still injured, means that he probably will get 2 games out of Anthony Knockaert. And he's the wild card from Brighton, if you will. Mm-hmm. That's it. I don't like being clever about Montoya's and Bernardo's and that. Bong will play a game. Bruno will play a game. Probably wouldn't take too much of a chance. Dale Stevens, if you're scrimping for money, is probably okay, but not really what you're looking for.
No.
So I would limit it to those 5. Everybody's going to go for Duffy.
Do you think so?
Unless people are trying to be clever.
So for me, I've gone Ryan and Dunk, and I'm not getting anyone else from Brighton. I don't really want any other attacking assets. And then I've got Camarasa from Cardiff for my other double up. My problem is that I've got Ryan and Lloris at the moment. We're getting into our wildcard sides. And would you have Lloris at home to Huddersfield or those 2 home games for Ryan? It's not as straightforward as it looks potentially, but I think I may go with Ryan for this week and the next double, and then move on to Lloris for the last 3 game weeks of the season.
Do you want to run through what you've got currently?
Sure. I currently have Matt Ryan and Hugo Lloris. I can't remember who put the tweet out about goalkeepers. Was it Canal? Somebody had a breakdown of all of the options that you had on pairings for double game week for the keepers.
I don't know, but I'm going to say it was Canal anyway.
I'm going to find it. It was either Canal or Jim, or if it was you, tweet us and tag us and reshare that, because it was a really good breakdown of all the pairing options.
And if it was neither of you and we haven't given you the credit, we apologise.
Yeah, massive apologies. In defence at the moment, I have Dunk, I have Robertson, I have Trent, who is on his way out, I have Wan-Bissaka, who's probably on his way out, and I have someone else as well. I should really remember who I put in, shouldn't I?
You were trying to be clever and not
not even look at my team.
YouTubers all over you, mate.
My team is Dunk, Robertson, Alexander-Arnold will probably go to Laporte. I have Wan-Bissaka, who probably will leave as well, and Valerie from Southampton. In midfield, currently, Pogba, Camarasa, Mane, Hazard, and Jota. Pogba, Mane, and Hazard could all not be in there by the end of this. And up front, I've got Rashford, Kane, and Jimenez. Jimenez will stay, but Rashford and Kane could both also not be in there. So my team's probably actually fucking hardly settled at the moment.
I'll tell you the team that if I had to wildcard right now, it would be, rather than who's in the squad. It's more interesting. But I must stress, this is nowhere near decided. Like, I'd say of my wildcard squad at the moment, I think keepers and defence, I'm very nearly set. But midfield and forwards could change massively. So, at the moment, I've got Foster and Lloris. Watford, great double. And Lloris comes in because of a problem with Spurs. Basically, I've spent most of the day trying to work out who the best Spurs defensive option is, excluding Lloris. And I can't give you an answer.
No, it's too tough.
So, as I said on the last pod, I think Walker Peters will play on Saturday against Huddersfield. Trippier's the best choice. But then you go into the double, Trippier might play at Man City and Aurier might play against Brighton if he's back fit. And then you're like, oh, fucking hell, I've missed all of this. What's going on?
Yeah, you've got the option of Vertonghen or Alderweireld, but they're 6 million.
Well,
Lloris is 5.4.
Davinson Sanchez will definitely play this weekend, I would have thought. But then do you want to go that route and then you don't know where you stand for the rest of the season? And don't forget, Spurs have obviously got 4 of the 6 at home.
Yeah.
And they all look quite appealing. I think it's the same problem with Ben Davies.
Yeah.
Danny Rose rotation problem. Vertonghen is the safest one.
But you don't get the attacking returns.
But I also think that he might not play this weekend. And that's going to leave you feeling sick.
And he's 0.6 more expensive, not worth it.
So by default, where I was looking for Ryan and a Spurs defensive player, reluctantly, because I don't want a goalkeeper at that price, it's Lloris. And part of the problem, and this falls into 4 teams, I think, so Spurs, Brighton, Watford and Arsenal. I think the best choice, not so much Brighton maybe, but certainly the other 3, the best choice is the goalkeeper.
Correct. I had Leno in and out my draft over the
So
weekend.
did I.
Yeah.
So did I.
And then I didn't want Leno and Kolasinac, and somehow I've managed to convince myself I'm not having neither. Who else in your defence?
So defensively, at the moment, it's not confirmed, but I've got Duffy and Dunk, as I said, Robertson, as I said,
Valerie,
as I said. The final spot at the moment goes to Laporte.
Yeah. So we'll be pretty similar, actually, in terms of Robertson, Laporte, Valerie, Dunk, and then A.N. Other instead of Wan-Bissaka.
Now, midfield forwards, honestly, could completely change. I would say of what I've got at the moment, Jimenez is definitely in. Murray's definitely in. Son is definitely in.
Son's definitely in for me as well. I just haven't got him in yet.
The other 5 are questionable. The other 5 at the moment are Lacazette as the third forward. I think the alternative for me is Deeney. I know you're going to love that. But then that would mean going Jimenez, Deeney, Murray up front. Which would then allow to come up, I said I've got Redmond at the moment. It would allow me to go something like Redmond to Mane. The other 3 at the moment I've got is De Bruyne, Sterling, Eriksen. And I'm not, and I know that Eriksen's one people are going to ask me about. I'm really not sure. The only thing I can say is probably like most people would have seen last night and in the Liverpool game and perhaps if people saw the Palace game as well. He's now playing in a more attacking position. Now, I don't think he's playing well at the moment. I thought he played fine last night, particularly against Palace, he was ordinary. But in the 2 league games where he's gone back into more of an attacking wide position, mainly off the right, obviously assist at Liverpool, goal and assist against Palace. And you do know that his consistency and numbers is extraordinary. If I said to you that he's only about 15 points behind Heung-min Son, you probably wouldn't believe me. But he is. But Son, definitely with Kane's injury, is definitely the one, in my opinion.
I'm captaining Son this weekend.
I think that's a big risk.
Enjoy captaining Murray. That's a big risk.
Yeah, I know, yeah. I'm well aware.
Okay, interesting. We've got plenty of wildcard questions in the Twitter questions. How long have we been recording for, Matt Child, the producer? 56.
Oh, that's good.
Half hour for questions and a little more.
Decent.
So I've grouped all the questions into a bunch of categories. Do you want to know what they are?
No.
You want to just go at random?
You do what you fucking like, mate.
Okay. So you're gonna. I've managed to create a random question picker. So.
Oh really?
Yeah.
How sexy.
If people on YouTube,
they're never going to see that.
Right. Okay. So you need to hit the button, and it's going to pick a topic. And that's the one we're going to go with.
What the fuck?
Ooh.
But this takes way too long.
It takes like 10 seconds. Wolves and Watford.
Have you got any sound effects to go with this?
This stupid app that I downloaded doesn't. So we've
Wolves,
got Wolves
and Watford.
Wolves versus Watford.
We didn't really cover Wolves so much.
No.
Jimenez, Hotter, Bolly. Your best choices from each position.
Yeah, but what if that wasn't a question? What if the question wasn't who are the best choices from each position?
Ask a question.
Wolves
then.
and Watford. So you got FPL Ninja. Right, FPL_Ninja, thank you for your question. Straightforward A or B. Jimenez and Deulofeu or Jota and Deeney.
Oh.
I'm assuming budget comes into concern there,
yeah.
because Deeney's cheaper than Jimenez and Jota's more expensive than Deulofeu.
Jimenez and Deulofeu has got the most power there, hasn't it?
I prefer Jimenez and Deulofeu. However, I mean, if I was given that choice, I'd take Jimenez and Jota.
Jimenez is a problem for me,
Yeah.
and I'm reluctant to go for it because I'm behind everybody else's value on it. But at the moment, what happened there, mate?
Yeah, my phone's just sliding off.
At the moment, I think I'm going to captain Jimenez in the double game week.
Okay. Fair play.
With Brighton at home, obviously 35, Brighton at home and Arsenal at home. I think that's what I'm going to do because I think there's going to be so many rotation problems and he isn't one.
Right.
And he's well capable of returning well in any game, as we've seen him scoring in all against all the big sides basically this season. Mm-hmm. So actually, not that I ever thought I'd be in a position looking at a 6.8 million forward and thinking he's going to be my captain in a double game week. I'm actually probably going to do it two weeks in a fucking row with Murray and Jimenez, basically.
James is on the beach.
Wilson was... I looked back. Wilson was the first time I'd captained someone this season who wasn't from a top 6 club.
Okay.
So I obviously haven't got the message.
Yeah.
And I've now decided I'm going to do it for the next 2 game weeks as well. That's not locked in. To be honest, Murray's not locked in for me this weekend, and neither is Jimenez in 35. But I think that then does give me a little bit of an edge on others that have had an advantage over Jimenez on me.
True. Excuse me. A couple of other quick questions, quick answers. Are Wolves and Watford on the beach? That's coming on from FPL Fan 4.
No.
I agree. I don't think they will be. I think they've both got decent managers that are going to keep the teams going.
I said last week on the pod that I thought the team that would lose would be the more attractive proposition possibly for double game weekers. As it would stand now from the 2 teams, I'd have just Foster and Jimenez. But I think Deulofeu, Jota, Bolly, Doherty, if you've carried through the value and you don't mind the fact he'll probably he might only play once in the double game week, then obviously he's a great shout.
Let's keep it moving. We got so many questions. FPL DJ Dom J, pick 2 from Jota, Deulofeu and Ward-Prowse. I know I'm going Jota and Ward-Prowse. I think it's just more reliability. Jota's been getting real good attacking returns. Ward-Prowse, he's going to play. Deulofeu has been rotated.
None of those 3 players are in my wild card at the moment. All 3 of them are still under consideration.
Jota is in my wild card. Next would be Ward-Prowse. Deulofeu's a bit further down. The reason Deulofeu is a bit further down is because he doesn't get consistency of minutes. He does get taken off.
I'd go Jota, Deulofeu because they've got Huddersfield away in that double.
And last questions from FPL SMR, FPL_SMR. Do you think that Wolves will rotate more because rotate less? Sorry, because Nuno Espirito Santos will just start playing his best team now.
Well, I think he has been anyway. On a whole of Wolves, and this will feel like probably a bit of a kick when they've obviously just had that result at the weekend. They have been lucky with injuries this season. There's no doubt about that. And if they finish 7th, and obviously if City win the FA Cup, then obviously they'll get into Europe. So there's still something there to play for. I think very much for Wolves and Leicester especially, and Everton a little bit, they'll really want to be going for 7th, I think. So the 3 of them still have something to play for. And I think in terms of rotation, you'll definitely see less now from Wolves.
Next topic. Hit the button, James.
Oh.
It is spinning round and round and round. It has landed on...
We need some sound effects for this.
Saints and Brighton. I've grouped the 2 together because they're in a kind of similar thought process for people where cheap players for the doubles and for Brighton's sake, doubles. Now, we've answered some of these, so we'll just rattle through and just give you credit for asking the question. But Adam P, 35 Who, you know this guy?
If you haven't read his article...
Well,
then it's a must-read on Arsenal, by the way.
So he says, I'd love some talk about Brighton and Southampton options and roughly 0 minutes on Arsenal, please.
Sorry, mate.
So, yeah, we've already been through that. I did read your question.
Didn't
and
really
laugh a
kick
little.
Arsenal, to be honest. Just said I ain't really having any of their players.
No, but if you want to see Arsenal being kicked, it's always fun when they're kicked by their own fans. So go to youtube.com/Arsenal Fan TV or AFTV or whatever they call it these days, because some of them fans was mad, yo.
I've not watched it for
Mad
a few
Bomber
weeks.
Club Mad. Or whatever they were really upset, especially about Ozil's £350,000 a week. Came up
Mesut Ozil, Jesus.
Came up in conversation a lot. Okay, is my cat playing? And Alex Coulthard both have similar questions. And Alex is probably jumping in and drinking from your Kool-Aid. Put the C on Murray, he says. Is my cat playing? Says, is captaining Duffy or Ryan a viable option? Home games, but they haven't kept clean sheets as much as like a City or a Liverpool. So you are still taking a bit of a risk. I don't mind people that want to put it on Murray, but I don't like putting it on a defensive player.
Yeah, but you can just think off the top of your head. Huddersfield, West Ham, Everton beat them all 1-0 at home, didn't they? And I'm sure there's others in there as well. So I mean, you wouldn't be surprised if we sat here next Thursday or Friday and Brighton have won both games 1-0, would you? And Murray scored in both.
I would be surprised, to be honest. I think they'll keep one clean sheet. I don't think they'll keep two. That's why I'm concerned about having Ryan over Lloris.
The problem with Brighton as well that we haven't really covered is the after 34.
Yeah.
So obviously it looks like an amazing double this game week, but then you walk into Wolves away and Tottenham away in 35, and then do you still want to be sitting on the two defensive players? That's why I always would have rather have had Ryan than Duncan Duffy, because you feel like, well, there's the save points there. With the keepers, it doesn't matter so much. Duncan Duffy in 35 could conceivably be one and two each, couldn't it?
True.
You don't want to walk into that with two. I think Duffy, because of his attacking threat as well, you go, okay, I live with that. You wouldn't want to take both in. So you got to think away. Now, the one I was thinking instantly, which I haven't got, is swap that against who they're playing with. So I think, for example, Dunk to Bolly, or someone of that ilk, it works.
Yep. Okay.
I think, because then Wolves have got the two home games in 35.
You know, everybody's put a tweet out that doesn't age particularly well. We've all done it. Yeah, this
definitely.
One's coming in from FPL_OGS. OGS FPL on Twitter. Any viable Brighton players worth captaining this week? I've currently got the armband on Duffy over Kane. 2 clean sheets and 2 goals would be a nice 60-point haul. No danger of reduced minutes for Kane? ? This was obviously sent before Kane's crocked.
Kane would have played at the weekend.
Yeah, so there you go. Is it okay to be taking hits between 34 and 35? And if so, would you plan to take a -8 to get rid of your Brighton players, or are you planning on only getting rid of one of your 2 or 3?
I wouldn't want any of those Brighton players for game week 35. But I know that if I go with 3, I'm not going to get rid of all 3.
Yeah.
So my thinking was something like Murray to Deeney, Dunk to Bolly, something like that. But somewhere, if I don't go with Mane, I'm going to want to work that in somewhere. So it could be like a -4 there, and then Mane in 36, perhaps for a Sterling or De Bruyne or Eriksen. Depends on how the value is, right? And what I've left in the bank. So I'm conscious of doing that as well, actually.
Leaving a bit in the bank.
A little bit. Particularly, and one of the things that's gone through my mind, I said, obviously, if I didn't go Lacazette, I'd probably upgrade Redmond to someone like Mane, for example. One of the ideas I've got in my head is going with Deeney, Jimenez, Murray, and leaving 4 or 5 mil in the bank.
Yeah.
To make that decision, whether it be a come off Redmond or one of those front three, say Aubameyang, Lacazette, Aguero, make that the right decision for the double. Because at the moment now, there are so many rotation questions. Like I don't believe. I think Aguero captain this weekend is a massive risk. Is Pep going to risk him at Palace 3 days before they play Spurs again in what's now vital? So that club, no matter what they do, is going to keep getting judged on their Champions League performances.
Correct.
And if they go out to Spurs, that's a failure. I
Massive.
don't care what anyone says, because they shouldn't be losing to us over 2 legs.
Yeah.
So can they take that chance? Can they afford to take the chance away in the league? Palace is always, we say it all the time, an awkward fixture. They drew 0-0 there last year. But I think Aguero potentially doesn't play this weekend.
Interesting. And last question from JB, but we've talked about this. Højbjerg versus JWP or Redmond. It's an option, but they're in different price brackets. Højbjerg can be a bench fodder, whereas JWP or Redmond, you are going to want to start potentially at 5+ million.
Yeah, I think it would be personal preference. I would favour Redmond over Ward-Prowse, which is probably more the argument because they're kind of equal in terms of value. I would, despite everything we've said, and I know it will hurt your feelings, I would favour Redmond. I'm not against Højbjerg. In terms of his price bracket, probably the best choice.
Right, next category. You ready? And I'm conscious in Brighton and Saints, there was only one Saints question, but that was that. Liverpool.
He counts.
Right, I've got to find the Liverpool questions on my sheets. We just had so many questions, mate. There's only 3. We've answered 1. How many Liverpool players in your wild card? For you, it's 1 or 2. For me, it's 2. I still think they're going to be decent. We spoke about Firmino, 33 points in his last 4 games. Chelsea up next, who are rubbish, followed by Cardiff and Huddersfield. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, tempting. I'd rather... You really have lost the phone this time.
It's a bit slippery.
I'd rather go Lacazette over Firmino. I think I'd take the chance with the extra fixture on that. Personally, could well end the season with... I mean, that 36... Well, I'm not going to do this. If I come into 36 and I haven't got any Liverpool players, and I'm sitting there with Lacazette and De Bruyne, for example, and I can move to Mane and Firmino, I'm just going to fucking do it, I think.
And take the hit.
Yeah.
It's that time of the season. We all had that question about Salah that we spoke about. He's not in anyone in this room's thoughts anyway. So Salah is definitely a no-no. And those are the only questions we had on Liverpool, I guess because they hadn't played.
Maybe. Hit
the button, James. We've got another category coming up. And this one is Wolves v Watford again. You can't give us the same category twice. Come on. The top 4 race. These are questions about Manchester United, Arsenal and Chelsea. And I've grouped the 3 of them together because that is...
Where's my fucking team?
Well, your team had so many questions.
There's a shock.
I just took them out and put them in their own section. Race for the top 4. Here we go. This is coming in from Matthew Hall. Thanks, Matthew, for your question. Any Manchester United or Chelsea or Arsenal coverage in your wildcard team? Well, you answered that earlier by saying nada.
Not ruling it out. Pogba, Lacazette particularly, still very much in my thoughts. I could conceivably still go with both. But what I'd say about all 4 teams in the race for the top 4, maybe not so much Arsenal because of the away form, but you look at all the fixtures, the easy fixtures on paper, and you can see them all winning their games, they won't.
I agree with you on that.
I'll tell you that right now. Especially because of this European shit, man.
I'm only going to have one Chelsea player. If I do, that would be Eden Hazard. There's no one else there that's particularly caught my eye. United, I'm still sitting on Pogba and Rashford. I may go with Lindelof or Shaw, but Shaw had a flag on him, so I'm not sure about Luke Shaw.
2-game ban. We missed that last week, mate. He got booked at Wolves.
Leave him out. So Lindelof maybe, but probably not. It all depends whether or not I really want to keep the value in Pogba or Rashford. And Arsenal, I'm not having any coverage. And I'm also really irritated with Arsenal for letting me down because I would have had 1 or 2 in Lacazette and Kolasinac, but there you go. FPL Dominus wants to know, should I transfer Hazard out for Eriksen now that Kane is injured? I thought Eriksen's always a more attractive proposition when Kane plays because he sets him up with so many goals. So this question's worded slightly differently. I mean, you're comparing an £11 million player with a £9.5 million player.
Yeah, you spread the funds, right? I think it's more a case of if you want to get rid of Hazard, and a lot will have taken the points and now will want to do so. Where do you go? I would favour, honestly, Son. I know that's kind of the big one people want to know, Son or Eriksen. I think they're both at risk of not playing this weekend. I think Spurs could make mass changes this weekend. I think it's most likely will make hardly any, by the way. I think it will come down to fitness. So Son was hobbling yesterday. Ali was hobbling yesterday. Arm injury, Ali. Trippier was hobbling. Vertonghen and Alderweireld, because of age, really they shouldn't need to play. Sanchez should come in for one of them. And he always likes to change the fullbacks anyway. And Eriksen always plays, right? You do think if you're going to give him a fucking break, this is the game, right?
But maybe not.
If Son's fit, he'll play.
But the question's about Hazard out for Eriksen, so leave Son alone.
One of the players I've really considered no mentions is Lucas Moura.
Mm-hmm.
Lamella I would have thought will play Saturday because he needs some minutes, and with Kane's injury, he's going to need to play some of the games in the running.
So you'd keep Hazard over Eriksen maybe because of lack of risk of rotation.
So if Lamella and Moura are both going to play and we work on that assumption, then certainly Son, Ali and Eriksen won't all play.
No, true. Matt Hawksworth's on wildcard and is ignoring Arsenal and Man U entirely. Should he be considering anyone there? Well, we've answered that. But thank you for your question, Matt. Do appreciate it. Dom Warren has put 2 names into the ring. Martial or Ozil. Ozil, you're mad if you're going with Ozil. Martial, 7 point whatever he is.
No.
Not for you. Okay, Pog yes or Pog no on a wild card? That's coming from STHLM Football. Have you subbed him out or you're thinking of subbing him out?
Oh, no, he's in the squad.
At the moment.
I knew I was taking Rashford out, so I didn't have a problem with that. I'm really not sure, Pogba. Really not sure. What I'd say is if you haven't got the value in him, definitely no. I'd look at him. Where Pogba holds the difference for me is that idea that you know he's going to play. But
that's what I was about to say. Make that a very point,
I think
James.
he's a risk this weekend as well.
Possibly, but he does when he's fit. He does play. I think I like Pogba because he is consistent. He had that great run. If he went and tore it up over the next 4 or 5 weeks, wouldn't surprise me. And he's on pens.
So
yeah?
I think he scored 8 goals since Solskjaer took over in the league, and he scored 2 against Huddersfield, 2 against Bournemouth, 2 against Fulham, a goal against Burnley, and 1 against someone else, Brighton, I think. Those are the opposition he's scored against. And coming up after West Ham, Everton away, City at home, Chelsea at home.
Captain him against West Ham. I think that's the moral of the story there.
I don't think you can because of the Wednesday-Tuesday thing. Trust me, playing against Barcelona is not fun.
Nah.
Mentally as well as physically, will fuck you.
So, let's move on to the next category, shall we?
Just before you do, or actually, I'll say it while we're spinning.
Go, it's spinning round.
It's sad that quite often, and we'll feel like this doing the podcast, and quite often we get what's the subject? Have I got to press it again?
No, it says random.
Oh, okay. It's quite sad that one of the questions we get the most is, do you think X will play?
Yeah.
And quite often, and I'm going to try and get away from this next season as a
I would like to
rule,
too.
is stop being so... FPL seems to be becoming a game of, I think he'll play twice.
Yeah.
Like, say Spurs defensively, I can't give you a good answer. If you're asking me which Spurs defender will probably score the most points between now and the end of the season, it will probably be Trippier. But you might have to go through some pain first, is what I'm saying. Mm. So, clearly he's got the biggest capability. You should probably go with it, right? Bernardo Silva, all right, was injured last week. He's playing most regularly than City, but he hasn't got the power. Sane can do in 1 week what Bernardo might do in 3 weeks, right? If he gets the game. So
True.
He's so frustrating that quite often our biggest calls, and particularly around the double game weeks, is just around who we think's going to play. Hate it. Got some random questions, mate.
Okay, these random questions are random in the sense that they've got nothing to do with football, or they have to do with football, cool. But they're not about specific teams. And the reason I just had to check my DMs on Twitter was for Big Geezer Ron's question, because I need a little bit of clarification on his answers, which I've now had.
Is it sexist?
No, it's not sexist. Although he did say, apologies if it wasn't received well. I don't think I get it. But you said it, not us. We're just the messengers, so don't shoot us. Let's start with Big Geezer Ron, right? Ron Weasley's question of the day. Hazard's journey from FPL troll to FPL legend, then back to being a troll, and now leaving a legend. I think he's very convinced
after
that
Sarri's comments,
he's on his way to Real. What's the most frustrating performance you've seen when you know that something is truly capable of? Anderson on or off TV. So Felipe Anderson's performances. These are things that you know could do better, but always does shit. A quiet fart when you've cocked your leg and you're ready to put out a big one. Your rhythm stick after beer. Or, and it says, dishwasher goes to bed. This is where I had to get clarification. I think he means the missus going to bed without doing the dishes. So
it is fucking sexist.
Yeah.
It's a wrong one.
Yeah.
We can't say that.
I have no rhythm stick issues, so I'm going to rule that one out. And dishes is not a problem either. So now we're down to farting or Felipe Anderson. It's got to be fucking that Felipe Anderson.
No,
again.
I think it's farting.
Yeah?
Yeah.
When you set yourself up for a fucking...
Yeah, you lean in, pull my finger, and then nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
That is a disappointment,
yeah.
But being a West Ham fan, I've got to say Felipe Anderson.
No, do you know what the disappointment is? It's not Felipe Anderson's performances. It was fucking buying the prick. That was the disappointment. That was the mistake.
Yeah. We'll see. I think he'll come good in his second season, then he'll angle for a move back to Italy or whatever he wants to do.
Yeah,
what Felipe really needs to do is grow his hair probably about an inch longer so he looks more like Leroy Sané, and then I think he'll be quids in. It just needs to be a little bit bigger.
I don't think that's going to help him with his feet, mate, unfortunately.
Well, Stefan White, Stefan RW on Twitter, thanks for your question. I think first time questioner.
Steph is Ron's mate. We met
Steph is Ron's mate. However, first time questioner getting
it might be.
And it is a good one. It'll make you think. You read it?
Yeah, I can't remember it though.
Oh, okay, fair play. Would you rather your team to be the most successful English club for the rest of your lifetime, but your son, bracket S, supports a rival club, or your team never wins a trophy in your lifetime? No change for either of you two anyway. Thank you. He's a Man Kinney. I think he's Man United. But your son support your club.
Well, we don't win fuck all anyway, so this is easy.
No, but assuming this is an opportunity to win
On
trophies.
a seriousness, I would rather we never won anything again.
And your son supports Spurs.
Yeah.
This was a really difficult question, because I come across a lot of people. I brainwash my kids into being West Ham
The alternative, as I've said before, regular listeners know, the alternative is he ain't my son. Simple as that.
Yeah, but yours is still little, right? He's coming up to like 5 months or 6 months.
Yeah, and he can still get turned upside down.
So my boys, I brainwash them, and I'm like, I meet people who are like, yeah, my dad supports this club and I support this club. I'm like, how did you let that happen? But then there are other times where I'm like, yeah, you go and support someone else because I could do it 3 hours away from you, you little shit.
Was it you I was telling about this Arsenal fan who was seeking a hypnotist?
Nah.
So I saw this on Twitter last week. So there's an Arsenal fan who's offered out £3,000 apparently for a hypnotist to stop his son, who's about 6 or 7, from being a Spurs fan. So the whole family's gooner. It's all generations, kind of opposites of what my family has been, passed down through the generations. Basically, he's just started getting a football, and he obviously watched Harry tear it up against Panama, win an MBE at the World Cup. And now he wants to support Spurs, right?
Yeah.
His dad can't get
and
him
I can
off
understand that peer pressure. I see it with my kids as well. It's like who's flavour of the month. With
There's no peer pressures. There's just no.
No, there isn't.
It's not happening.
So it depends. To be honest, it depends on what mood I'm in with the kids. Because if they've been pissing me off, they can support anyone and leave me the fuck alone so I can watch my football in peace. But 99% of the time, I'd rather, we're not going to win anything, and we can still go to the football together.
Yeah, listen, this family traditions is part of who I support, so.
There you go.
Yeah.
One other random question.
And we'll never be the best team in the
this
country.
This is coming
anyway.
in from Brad Standen. What do you blokes need to do to get onto the official fantasy show with that 10 out of 10 babe at Jules Breach? I didn't know that's her Twitter handle. And to be honest, I don't really watch the show enough to know whether she's 10 out of 10. However, the fact that you tagged her into the tweet and called her a 10 out of 10 babe is going to help our cause.
It's really not.
I don't condone anyone else going on Twitter and saying 10 out of 10 babe at Jules, JULES BREACH Breach. Get these boys onto the show. But if you choose to, you choose to. That's all I'm saying. That's it for the random round.
You said you'd never leave me.
Well, yeah, nah.
You're leaving me for Jules now,
Pick
are
a
ya?
topic. We got a couple more to get through. This thing loves to pick Wolves versus Watford.
We'll just go for the next one that's available, won't it?
Vardy. We've spoken about Vardy. Is Jamie Vardy worth keeping despite having no double game week as he plays West Ham in game week 35? This coming in from
Jump Newcastle and go straight into West Ham.
That's comes for FPL depression. You've also got Mr. FPL Liam who says, what do you think of a single game week option such as Vardy? Just tied into that question about Vardy because he plays West Ham in game week 35. Jimmy Mac and Cheese at Claret FPL said, is the new rule captain whoever plays West Ham? Or is it always captain Kane? But that part we can ignore.
Yeah.
FPL Addict also said, should you just captain anyone who's playing West Ham? So, Vardy.
Yeah, he falls into the category of players I think you can keep.
Yeah.
I think
even if you haven't got any value.
Yeah, the one thing that's interesting about it is we've already said we said so often about obviously his returns against the big six are always quite good, and it's some of these weaker games. I think Maddison being back in it was so odd when Maddison wasn't in and around the team behind Vardy regularly. Gray and Barnes are giving Leicester a dimension of pace in wide areas that they've not had for a while, and some stability to the team as well. You kind of, that's how they're going to play, you know that's kind of going to be the front four at the moment. That's helping. They obviously moved the ball quicker. We're not talking about direct long ball football here, but Puel was more of a progressive. Rodgers wants to play good football, but he wants to play exciting football as well. So if that means getting it quick to Jamie Vardy, that's what he'll do. Vardy falls in definitely with the Liverpool players, as single game week players you can consider. Hazard's just about could fall into that as well.
The last three fixtures are a bit ropey though. Arsenal.
That's what I've said. There's plenty who I think will carry through this week, and it'll be the one transfer to come off next week, and it gives people to then decide if it's going to be Lacazette, Aubameyang, Aguero, depending on what's affordable.
Right, we've only got a couple more categories, so we don't need to bother with our random category selector anymore, but I did have fun with that. Manchester City, because there are a few questions on City, and then chips in general. We've had a few questions that are just kind of a little bit more broad. Let's talk about City, because City basically is two questions. KDB, no KDB.
In at the moment. I found it bizarre that him and Sane came on with like minutes ago last night.
Yeah.
I promise you, De Bruyne came on, and within a couple of minutes he was running at the back four, and I promise you the whole ground was screaming, take him out. Like, he's a fucking worldie. If he's on it, he's the best midfielder on the planet, in my opinion, because he can do it all. There are players who will score more goals, better defensively. In terms of all-rounder, De Bruyne can do absolutely everything. There is no real justification on this season to have him in on the wild card, but I think just at the moment it'll please me seeing him in there and knowing that he's capable. It was interesting. Guardiola said, and I thought it was odd. He said that they went with like Gundogan and David Silva because they're more reliable in these big games than De Bruyne. Now I don't know what the message was there. My think is it was an undercurrent of motivation, and De Bruyne will play every game between now and the end of the season.
De Bruyne is the only person I would move to for Kevin De Bruyne would be maybe Mane or Hazard. So, and he's cheaper than both of them, so he does represent interesting value.
He also does allow that. So if I go for De Bruyne and it's wrong, and I don't go for Mane, it's quite an easy move to then do that for like the 36. If I want to go Mane triple captain,
indeed. Todd Wader. Will McSweeney. Todd. Your question was De Bruyne, but Will McSweeney, Bilva or no Bilva?
Well, it looks like he's probably not going to be available this week. I would presume that Guardiola will want him to play the second leg, and the comments last night was he should be okay for next week. I took that as for Spurs, not so much for Palace. So a risk, I would say. But Guardiola loves him, right? And he's getting better. And his price, you can't argue. It won't be that price next season.
No, it would probably be $1 million more. I think he'll be in the same David Silva bracket.
Silva, yeah.
Exactly. This question's coming in from Michael Murphy. I think he's got the wrong pod because his question's all about stats and we don't know. Well, we know some. You're pretty good. I'm rubbish. Do you know Raheem Sterling's record against Spurs and Manchester United? I'm looking for reasons why I can leave him out of the team for the next 2 game weeks. I always know his record against Liverpool is poor. So he's happy to leave him out there. But has he scored many against your lot? And Manchester United?
He definitely scored in both fixtures last season.
Ouch.
And he assisted Mahrez's goal in a league game earlier this season. Obviously, I guess would have been his assist for Aguero's penalty in the game last night. It's what he's capable of. I would say on City in terms of the midfielders, like I wouldn't rule out any of them. Like I wouldn't rule out Sane because he's getting so near in the end of the season now, and I think surely you're going to use him at some point, mate. Because to me, it's blindly obvious. Now the problem is he wants to play Bernardo off that position off the right, and that doesn't necessarily help on Sterling's returns off the left, in my opinion, either. So I wouldn't rule any of them out. At the moment, it's Sterling and De Bruyne. I could go with, I think De Bruyne and Sane might be a little bit too risky, but I wouldn't rule out doing that. It's such a tough call always with City. I was DMing with FPL Pringle the other night and was talking a bit about De Bruyne and stuff, and just we was talking about the difficulty in the fact that for him being a City correspondent, the question all the time is, do you think X will play? Exactly what I said 15 minutes ago. Don't get nothing else. Nobody knows what Guardiola's going to do. What I can say is I think in the Champions League game, De Bruyne will play, Sane will play, Bernardo Silva will play in that second leg. And that makes them possibly problematic for Sunday. I don't know.
Nobody knows. We've covered most of the questions, to be honest with you, there in terms of chips and rotation, and we can't really answer questions on who will play and who won't play and which double game week players are at risk of rotation and which single game week options are potentially worth considering. I think we've been through all of that. So in terms of the 65 questions that we've had on Twitter, if we've probably done 55 of them, I think I'll take that.
I think I covered most of the Spurs lot.
Indeed. So that leaves it for that. Anything more we've got to add? Are people still able to vote in this football blogging awards thing?
Oh yeah, we've already won it.
Oh, have we?
Yeah.
Oh, happy days. Just to make sure that we've won it, do what City do when they're already 7-0 up against
I don't want to get sued or anything.
And
we're definitely not winning it.
Football blogging awards, Google it, or FBA awards, or whatever they're on Twitter.
Thank you for
vote
everybody
for us,
who's spoiled their vote and voted for us. Thank you.
It's not a spoiled vote. It's better than a
vote
for anybody else. So do vote for us. We want to try and win this fantasy football creation or creator awards, which would be nice. Maybe we'll tweet out a link or what have you, but Google it is there. So that's kind, and other than that, we've got this kind of full game week plus the extra cheeky little fixture for Brighton and Cardiff, but we'll be back after all of these games are wrapped up.
Captain this week for you?
I don't even know who's in my fucking team, mate, so I don't even know who I'm going to captain. I honestly have no idea. Like, there's so many variables that could change between now and Friday. I need to have a long, hard think about it.
Just a final point from myself is, and it's very difficult because obviously I know a lot of the community on Wildcard, and obviously I'm on a Wildcard. So a lot of people say, what would you do here? Well, it's fairly fucking obvious. I'm just going to tell you what I'm going to do with my team, right?
Yeah.
So it's I really dislike personally advising people on their wildcard is so difficult because I'm just going to give you my opinion of what I'm doing right now. So that might not be right for you. And on a wildcard, you really should go for the team that you want, not what someone else tells you to do.
I agree with you on that, definitely. So yeah, thanks for listening. Obviously, do share the podcast with all your FPL playing friends, family, enemies, whoever it may be. And you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and now on YouTube as well.
Yes.
When we get the video up.
Libsyn, Android download there.
Oh, magic. There you go. So yeah, thank you so much for all the reviews that we get, all the interaction on Twitter. We do appreciate it. We'll be back next week with episode 56 as we wind down into the last 4 or 5 game weeks of the season. Anything more to add?
Cue music.
Ciao for now.
Good luck, everyone.
The Fantasy Football Show.